a very happy Flag Day, and I hope all of you are celebrating it the way I am. I'm wearing a flag shirt, as you can see, very nice flag shirt that I just got. Nice star over here. Almost looks like a Texas shirt, doesn't it? But this here says USA over here, flag over here. Very comfortable on a warm day like today. Rather warm in New York, not terrible. Uh, I have several of these shirts. I'll wear a different one tonight, maybe. See what you think of that. Um, happy birthday also to President Donald J. Trump, number 45, God willing, 47. We called him and left a message for him. And I hope he doesn't listen to it because we sang happy birthday. And this could set him off in a whole different. He likes Pavarotti, so this could be like this could set him off in a whole new direction. Who knows? It could put him in a bad mood. I don't know. Seems to be in such a good mood lately. Well, he should be. He should be. Things are very much going his way as they should. I mean, I think the question is getting focused now somewhat on, it was the economy. And it was immigration. It was the trials, Hunter's. I hear a lot of people going back to, but I was better off under him. And these are the people who are not pro-Biden or pro-Trump or Trump derangement, or if there is such a thing as Biden derangement, I think just normal reaction to a massive lifetime crook. But in any event, that right now I would say, and this as we get closer to the election, I'll start to try to identify this for you, because I had a political advisor or two really, and I subscribe to this myself, but I always like to give the derivation of my thinking when it's my own originally or it comes from others, because I'm not a liar, a sneak, and a weasel like Joe Biden. But both David Garth and Roger Ailes, although they articulated it differently, so I'll give you my articulation of it, said that a really well-constructed election campaign works on the question that you want the electorate to ask when they go in the polling booth. Now, you can't really frame that right now. You can lay the groundwork for it now, but a lot of things are going to take control of that when you get down to October and November, because events change, new things happen, big events occur, horrible events occur, good events occur. But right now, I think a while back when Trump was taking his lead, and a lot of it was how unfairly he was treated. And I think that took you right through the ridiculous case in New York with, to putting a person like Cohen on the witness stand and whatever. And of course, underlying all of that is the economy, inflation, and generally just people not doing well. But but there are so many questions, because you've got two wars going on. You've got him acting like a baboon, walking around like an animal that doesn't know what direction he's going in, or somebody who's lost at a nursing home. And then you have all this turmoil about children. Can you change children's sex without telling the parents? He believes yes. Trump believes no. Educational curriculum. Democrats believe, the children are the property of the state, really. They decide the educational curriculum. Remember when the governor candidate in Virginia got all upset that, the parents aren't educators, the teachers should decide. And that was when teachers were trying to keep schools closed forever, so they never have to work. A union that, by the way, particularly in the Northeast, has a very, very strong connection to the Communist Party from the very, very beginning. So they are very much inundated as Marxists with the idea that the children have to be the property of the state. The ideal, believe it or not, for Marx, for Stalin, for Hitler, for 2 years old. They got to start grabbing that kid at about 2 years old. And therefore, all this wonderful thing about early childhood education, which you thought was so darn benign, that's to get your kid so they can brainwash your kid before your kid knows what's happening and take your kid away from you so that the child, if it starts saying things like, gee, maybe I want to be a girl, all of a sudden, one time they say that and ba-boom, hormones, the knife, don't tell the parent. The kid may say, well, my parents may not like, oh, don't tell the parent. I mean, we're in charge. The school's in charge. The doctor's in charge. The state is in charge. You want an America like that? Vote for Biden. That's, so now we got all these issues and I'm missing 10 and I really don't want to do them all. What I'm trying to say is I think it's coming down to what all of what Yiddish would say was mishigas under Trump, which is confusion, which I don't believe was confusion. I mean, I'm granting the other side. This is very confusing to people who aren't lawyers, but I'm presenting this arguendo. If I said it in court, the judge would understand it. But when I started doing this as a politician, Garth and Hale got really angry at me. Nobody knows what you're talking about. They think you're admitting all this stuff. But assuming arguendo that he does distract with his tweeting and which he does very little of now, right? For all his mishigas, it isn't even arguable. We were so much better off 4 years ago. There are very few people, except people who are truly like getting their fourth or fifth case of Trump derangement syndrome. There are probably people who are getting their fourth or fifth case of COVID, like this first stepmother, the stepmother in chief. I think she's had about 4. I think she's had as many COVIDs as she's had boosters. Shot, COVID, booster, COVID, which ain't bad because some people get myocarditis and other things. But in any event, I never had a shot and I never had myocarditis either. So I think that people are asking the question, weren't we better off? Now that question became major in 1984. Of course, the great genius, which he was, deprived of that during his lifetime as an acknowledgement. I knew it because I wrote occasionally for him, spoke to him, represented him. Ronald Reagan just very, very slyly put in, aren't you better off today than you were 4 years ago under Carter? The answer was, oh, yeah. Forget politics. Yeah. We were paying 30% less for our gasoline. We didn't have 2 wars going on. Inflation was non-existent. Blacks and Hispanics were being paid more. They haven't been paid before with more jobs. Everybody else was up. You had wage increases, not wage increases that in real dollars are 2-3% less because the government is printing phony money. You had a president who didn't need the help of the president of Italy to figure out what direction to go in. So I think that's becoming the big question. And when he does things like this, the meanderer in chief, I mean, this really blows. We are doing this on a world stage. He went back to Europe just for this meeting so he could embarrass the hell out of all of America. I mean, it's one thing when the Secret Service picks him up or Jill holds his hand or somebody else did it recently or Kamala Harris distracts by giggle. I think she giggles to distract, from so you don't pay attention to the meander. But look in front of world leaders. I mean, these are smart people. They're not rigid followers of CNN or MSNBC. And these are intelligent people who draw their own conclusions about things. And of course, they've seen him fall going up the stairs. They've seen him fall going down the stairs. They've seen him fall off bikes. They've seen him recognize people who were dead in the audience or recognize people who were hostages who were in Hamas in the audience or say that he gave medals to people that were dead for 7 years before, after when he gave them a medal, including his uncle, not knowing when his son died, not knowing when he left the vice presidency, and being declared too mentally incompetent to ever stand trial or to defend himself. And they see his attorney general fighting tooth and nail to preserve a 5, 6, 7 hour interview with him, which has to be disastrous. Otherwise, Garland wouldn't be violating the law like this. So, Ted, can we show the meandering? And I really do. I mean, Georgia Maloney is a friend of mine. I mean, I knew her before she became the head of Italy, because she's always been a leader in the conservative movement in Italy, accused of being a fascist and all this other crap that the left does. And in fact, I guess some of the right wingers are a little disappointed that she actually isn't a nut. She's very, very, she's a mainstream conservative and strong conservative. But it isn't all going to be ideological when you're running a country. If you're a good person, a lot of it has to be practical. I was very. You could talk to Sean Hannity, who covered me for the 8 years I was mayor, and I was considered a moderate Republican when I ran for mayor. And he would say when I was running for president that they're making a very big mistake. He said, in the 8 years he was in office, maybe for Newt Gingrich and maybe even beyond Newt Gingrich, he was the single most conservative person in government. He's the only one who really turned. I took 600,000 people and I took them off welfare. 500,000 working. I borrowed it from Thompson, but I did it on a big scale. Reduced crime more than anybody ever in history. The only one challenging me now is Maduro, but he's doing it differently. He's sending them all to the U.S. They say he's got crime down by 60%. I did 60. I mean, he could pass me, but I never thought about sending them to, to Venezuela or something. They used to accuse me of sending him to New Jersey, but I didn't. Honest, I didn't. Even accused me once of sending. They accused Bratton and I of sending bodies to New Jersey. I think it was a joke. You don't really have to. There's no room for bodies in New Jersey. You can't even find a place to bury them. So let's take a look at the meander. And think back to the movie Being There, which I'm going to get out for tonight. You tune in tonight, and we'll let you going to see the movie Being There that did 30 years ago, and it predicts a president who's a numbskull. Of course, if that were the only thing, you'd say, okay, he got interested in something else, but she was worried he wasn't going to be. I think she was worried he was going to continue. In Being There, the guy continues and starts walking on the water, and he's a simpleton who becomes a presidential candidate because he says really stupid things, but they're so damn stupid that nobody understands them. And therefore, all the intellectuals think he's smarter than they are. But he's actually a completely illiterate gardener who makes analogies to. He's asked once by the president, who you have to see the movie to know how he gets in with the president. But the president of the United States asked him, what? I'm having a terrible time about the Chauncey. I'm having a terrible time about the economy. What should I do? And he said, well, Mr. President, it's like being a gardener, which is the only thing he knows. If you put good seeds in the fall, take care of them during the winter, and very carefully during the early spring, by the summer, you'll have a blooming garden. Oh, so the president, President. Oh, yes. Hmm. So now the next scene, the president's on like something like Meet the Press, and they say, "Mr. President, you're up for re-election, and the economy is really doing very well. What do you say about the economy?" And the French president says, because he just assumes. Well, I was speaking the other day with the noted economist Chauncey Gardner, and Chauncey said, if you put the right seeds in the fall and husband them correctly during the winter and care for them during the spring, you'll just blossom we should be blossoming by the summer. And all of a sudden, who is this Chauncey Gardner? Let's find Chauncey Gardner. And they start making up things. He must be this one. He must be that one. He must be this one. He must be that one. And then pretty soon he starts getting mentioned as maybe he'd be better than the president. And he's a complete numbskull, crazy, numbskull. The only guy dope here is the guy in the White House.
Yeah. What a movie. And every day, Mayor, he's getting worse and worse. You're hearing more leaks from internally that they know he's getting worse. And it does remind you of this movie.
We could play. I mean, it gets boring to keep playing him.
Every day it's something new, though.
When are they going to get rid of him?
Yeah.
And look, and President Trump is 77, and they try to pick out a thing that he gets wrong or a thing which is just.
I believe he's 78 as of today.
Which is just a normal. Actually, he gets very little wrong. He's got a memory trapped. And he's articulate as hell. He can go on for 2 hours just talking without notes. Yeah. And this guy can't even read. He can't even read. He returned to Washington yesterday. I had forgotten it's his first time back to the Capitol.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's his first time back to Washington. I seem to think he's been to Washington since he left. I've not been back to the Capitol, but I didn't go to the Capitol that much anyway. Been in Washington maybe 2 times since. I just have a terrible feeling about Washington because they're so crooked. It's not just a stolen election, and it's all the frame-ups they're doing and what they've done to the Justice Department, all the lying, and this administration is really hurting our country. But he got quite a reception from the Republicans, who, of course, they were thinking about a different candidate. And look, in the long run, the congressmen, some of them are not going to want him because he's a little too tough. He doesn't make life as easy on them as a rhino type of president would go along to get along. But in the long run, the ones who are real doers, they want a guy like this. And I mean, he got screwed big time, as we now know, by having that Ryan guy the first 2 years he was in office, who stopped a lot of initiatives because they would have been Trump's, but they would have been very good for the United States. And he also made sure that none of the subpoenas went out. They could have stopped the entire waste of time of the Cuban. I'm going to speak about Cuba in a minute. The Russian collusion farce paid for by Hillary Clinton, a real crime, not prosecuted by anyone at all. The president, I guess, had come into some controversy for saying that Milwaukee's a terrible city. It is. I mean, everybody in Milwaukee will tell you this. I mean, this is ridiculous. He talks like a human being. I mean, people that come from Milwaukee tell me how awful it is since the George Floyd thing, how much more crime they have. And even with some reduction in crime, they historically have a lot of crime. And they're right up there in the top 10 for crime. I mean, and everybody I know in Milwaukee says, you can't send your kids to school in Milwaukee. Isn't he just reflecting reality? Don't you want him to know how bad it is? He's supposed to say, "Oh, Milwaukee's terrific." We're not. Isn't that what the phony Democrat politicians do? The black ones and the white ones, when they leave the black neighborhoods behind for 30 or 40 or 50 years? Isn't that what the late Congressman Cummings was doing when he stood in front of his Baltimore neighborhood during the riots and said, "Nobody's done anything about this neighborhood for 25 years"? Congressman, you've been representing it for 23. Oh, and your wife has made millions. Oh. We'll do that story sometime. How many of them are there like that?
Yeah.
I mean, and everybody says New York is terrible. I mean, I was out for 10 minutes today to go to lunch. Two people, you got to come back as mayor. Just two people. Oh, I saw about 8. You got to come back as mayor. It's terrible. Things are terrible here in New York. Well, please, supposed to say, "Oh, things are wonderful in New York. We're just doing great in New York. Our school system has gone from, at one time, being one of the very best to being less than mediocre. And when I was mayor, we were spending, 17, 18,000 a student, which was a lot. We're now spending 34,000 a student. We've gone for first, second, and third in math and English to 24th and 27th. You're spending $15,000 more, and you're driving the kids into illiteracy. And it's a city that's, you're supposed to say, good. I think he was reflecting. He was reflecting the crime, the poor education system, and the very serious issue of voter fraud there, where I don't know if you know this, but I mean, the Court of Appeals basically affirmed his position a year later.
Hey, can I suggest another thing?
And there's also a report by a distinguished judge that the election was stolen. But of course, the judge now becomes a bum and a bad guy. And up until that time, he was totally spotless. But he wrote a report saying that Trump won the election. And then the Supreme Court reversed its decision that would have, in fact, invalidated, 80,000 ballots. So why wouldn't he think it's a warning, really? Don't screw around, because we're watching you.
That's right, Mayor. And I didn't hear the exact words. I don't think any of us did. I want to also suggest that he was.
But I'm not even sure he said it.
But if he was referring to the city, and I mean, look, it's one of the big reasons, this, that he won in 2016, immigration and trade, and the trade issue, and what bad trade deals and bad policy out of Washington did to these once great Midwestern cities, Milwaukee, Detroit, St. Louis, Buffalo, New York, Pittsburgh, these once great Rust Belt cities, right? And what's happened to them in the past 70, 80 years. President Trump is spot on, even if he did say the worst that they're claiming he said. He might be, one issue he's referring to is, or what he's referring to is trade, and how bad policies in Washington decimated these once great cities in middle America.
Say about Washington, D.C., crime is up 36% in Washington, D.C. People are afraid to go out. People can't, I mean, you leave your car there. Goodbye car, goodbye. I mean, auto theft is up 76% in Milwaukee. But it's the great city. And everybody there knows you can't put your kid in public school.
The Green Bay Packers.
None of the elite politicians, white and black, put their kids in public school.
The Green Bay Packers, up until the early 90s, played 2 of their 8 home games at Milwaukee County Stadium, and they stopped doing that for a reason. Let's ask the Green Bay Packers why they don't play their games in Milwaukee anymore. They stopped going down there.
They didn't want to travel.
There might be other reasons, but one reason.
Well, you tell us as an owner.
Yeah, as an owner, okay, you're right. There are a lot more reasons, but look, if it was this great world-class city, right? I mean, it's not. You're not disparaging the town. If anything, we care more about these communities than the Democrats and the lying drive-by East Coast media who want to.
They've been controlling these cities like Chicago for 60 years. What have they done with it?
Bingo.
Every weekend. You got to slaughter. They've been controlling New York for 150 years. What do you got? Total corruption. I mean, let's face it. They control Baltimore. What do you got there? As Cummings said, they've done nothing with Baltimore in 25 years.
Mayor, we were just in Detroit. In 1950, Detroit was first or second, maybe second to New York in wealth per capita, right? In America, 1950, 1949. We were just there last weekend. Look, I love the city of Detroit. You love Detroit. You love the people of Michigan. But it's not
abandoned with a little comeback now.
Exactly.
A little comeback.
Exactly. And
which I appreciate.
Bingo.
So shall we take a short break? All right.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Back. Welcome back.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you on the Rudy Giuliani Show. And let's tell you, do you have Eric Adams making derogatory comments about New York City? I mean, correct ones, but
We do. We're going to bring this up right now. I'm uploading it. And so this is from a couple of years ago, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Can you read that? Can you see that on the screen there? So this is an interviewer talking to Eric Adams a couple years ago, and this is Eric Adams responding. Let me tell you something. When I started looking into this, I was shocked at how bad this place is. New York Mayor Eric Adams, a longtime New York politician, says of New York.
Yeah.
I'm shocked at how bad this place is. Where's the media outrage?
And if he didn't, he would sound like a mayor who was out of touch, just like Trump would sound like a presidential candidate that was out of touch. Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson obviously doesn't accept that. Instead, what he should be talking about are the good things they've been doing to try to fix it. Maybe they're not.
And maybe he will when we get there, when we're there, right?
Maybe,
for convention. He's teeing it up.
We'll see. Well, the U.S. and the UK are Ukraine behind all of this meandering around, and Trump not knowing where he was and going back to the U.S. and getting confused there and coming back and getting confused again. Maybe he doesn't know it, but he just signed a 10-year pact with the second most corrupt country in the world.
Scary. He doesn't know it. You're right. That's the scary part. He doesn't know it.
Oh, he knows better than anybody how corrupt it is. He might even tell you that from his point of view, it's the most corrupt, except for China, because he got more from China. I mean, just the idea of seeing him there with Zelensky, who knows the whole story of all his crime, massive amounts of crime committed in Ukraine. Zelensky is making a deal with a guy who screwed the Ukrainian people left and right, stealing money, working with one of the worst people in the Ukraine, a Putin favoring a Ukrainian named Zlochevsky, making sure he got out of trouble, bailed his $40 billion crooked company out of trouble in order to pull in through Hunter 10 to 20 grand. Zelensky could tell you exactly how much, because Zelensky's closest ally is a guy named Kolomoisky. I know the names are tough, but sometimes you got to be tough to start understanding things and not be a jackass walking around all the time, susceptible to brainwashing. Zlochevsky is the guy who paid off the Bidens. He had a company that was under investigation for stealing billions from the Ukrainian government. Ukrainian government had really focused on it as a way of getting some of that money back, since they only had $800,000 in the bank. Zlochevsky knew I got to get help, because Poroshenko's a big crook, and I got to get somebody to intervene with Poroshenko. And he said, nobody better than Joe Biden, because Joe Biden has been named the point man for the Ukraine. He's going to control all the money, and Joe can be bought through his son, who had been trolling all around Eastern Europe looking to pick up bribe money. So he made a deal with him, put him on the board, put the other guy on the board. Hunter had a deal which he explains in a text that you never get to read because they hide it from you, that for 30 years, half his income went to Joe, which means half this income went to Joe. And then when it came time that Shokin had arrested the company. I mean, they all say he was crooked, he was this. He arrested the company. Came time for him to arrest the company. Biden went into action, pressured Poroshenko. By the way, there were 4 conversations between Poroshenko and Biden, which they will not release. It spells out the entire bribe. If you need it spelled out, it's already spelled out on the video that we have of him, and in numerous texts. And then the case was dismissed when the new prosecutor came in. And Biden approved the new prosecutor, which never happens. So there he is, all this corruption. Zelensky knows chapter and verse of what I told you. He's got a file that's twice the size of what I've got. I mean, he's got plenty of other crimes on Joe. I don't know what they are, but he's got them. Got a lot more pictures on Hunter, too. So when he wants money from him, he just says, Joe, how'd you like to see the rest? How would you like everybody to see the rest? I mean, he's been protecting Joe from the beginning. He's been obstructing, not only that, he's been protecting his own crooked politicians. You don't think that the president of Ukraine got money for Burisma to fix the case? He got a fortune. And he gets to keep it in crooked Ukraine. And we make a deal, we give him a 60 billion, and we don't put any accountability on it. We don't ask for a trustee, we don't ask for a monitor, we don't ask for a report. We just trust him. Even though it's hard to find a transaction where they don't steal. I asked John McCain once, who can you trust in Ukraine? He said, nobody. Oh, and then he named one guy, and they tried to kill that guy. And he became president, and they kind of ruined him by poisoning him. Have you learned your lesson? You cannot put a thoroughly dishonest man in the White House. Demented or not, you can't put a man who's there to make money for himself and his son. I mean, this whole war is suspicious as hell. He gives him 40 times what he's given Israel, and they can't win. And then he puts restrictions on them so they can't win. They can't shoot beyond 3 miles into Russia. Well, they can't win. So if they can't win, what is it? A war without end? A war where there constantly is an excuse to send money to one of the most corrupt places in the world, where we have had a long history, Democrats have had a long history of whacking up money? We got to be stupid to not figure it out. Well, I got to tell you, Israel pays no attention to him, because the IDF has its own strategy laid out beautifully by a gentleman named Andrew Fox, who was an officer with the British Army up until 2021. And he lays out how we don't seem to at all understand their strategy in Gaza, because we're complaining that they've gone. I think I pointed this out to you last night. They've gone back into Gaza, and they're going back up north again and wiping out whatever is left of Hamas there. And he says their strategy is not like the U.S. strategy: go into Afghanistan, go into Iraq, take the whole thing, and then try to govern it forever. Their strategy is to eliminate Hamas, and more importantly than eliminate Hamas, to get Hamas's threat against them under control, which means that they realize they're going to have to continue to do this for quite some time. That Biden would not give them the bandwidth, the support to just go wipe them out right from the beginning. Bibi's plan was to just go right in and take them right out. They delayed them by about 4 weeks. That got a lot of people killed that shouldn't have gotten killed, but Biden's gotten a lot of people killed that shouldn't have gotten killed all over the world. And now all he does is yell and scream at them and bang his feet and tell them not to continue the war in Rafah, not to continue to try to eliminate Hamas. He's like he desperately wants to keep Hamas alive. So if they're going to do that, they're going for the big shots. They're taking out the leadership. They're decimating it so that it can't do big things. Meanwhile, they've got themselves engaged in a war in the north that is becoming increasingly serious. We'll go into more detail when we have a little more time tonight on that and exactly what that entails and what that means with regard to a president now who's not really supporting the war in the South. I was going to show you. I was going to show you this picture, but I'll show you later of basically the damage that they're doing in Gaza. They're literally securing 3 parts of Gaza, and again, I'll go over that in more detail tonight. They're securing the U.S. built pier so that they can get in and out of Gaza. They're securing the demilitarized zone, which is a buffer right on the border. They're securing the Philadelphia corridor, which is right near Egypt, to prevent importations of guns. They are securing the Netzarim corridor and patrolling it so that things can't move back and forth. And they are trying to keep Gaza City from returning to what it was. So it's a cleanup action, and it's as Fox points out, it's quite brilliant. It doesn't comply with what we want, which is to end it, because Biden's afraid he's going to lose votes in Minnesota. In Michigan, maybe Minnesota too. But tough luck. Hunter Biden and his excuse for a lawyer dismissed the case against me, which I told you way back was frivolous, ridiculous, crazy. The case was that I doctored the John Mac Isaac, his Hunter's computer and the hard drive. And of course, the testimony in the case by the FBI was that they had examined it, and there was no changes made, nothing done to the hard drive. Actually, the testimony really didn't go as far as what the FBI did. They did a complete forensic on it. When I was wasting time and the Post and everybody else verifying it, the FBI had verified it in December of 2019, much more extensively than we were capable of doing. And they knew that it was 100% accurate and correct. And when they allowed the papers to say things like I was a Russian agent and the president was a Russian agent and we got it from Russia, when they allowed the 51 intelligence agents who made prostitutes of themselves to say that it had earmarks of Russian collusion, on its face was a lie. I mean, they had never even examined it. They took a day and a half to just sign a letter. I'm not even sure they read the letter. But they wanted it ready for the evening debate. So remember when Mr. Dodo comes back to debate now, the last time you saw him debating, he was lying to you. Maybe one of the biggest lies ever told by an American president to procure the presidency. There's no question he and his people defrauded the American people in order to become president. He lied, and they covered up the most relevant piece of evidence ever offered in an American presidential election, which contains 50 crimes that almost don't need to be proven beyond the hard drive. You could be a disc jockey and win this case. You sit there and play the hard drive or the computer, whichever. Want to take a look at his lie, Ted?
Once again.
That's why his son's lawsuit was so idiotic, and was dismissed against me. And I'm not sure who else it was brought against. I'm not sure if they brought it against the president. And
This is the one from the debate.
yeah, I know they have a lawsuit against John Mac Isaacs too. I'm sure they're going to have to dismiss that as well. That really was so ridiculous that we doctored.
There has to be some repercussions for what they've
There
done.
are repercussions. How about 16 months if I'm a Russian agent and then they all say, well, I wasn't? How about 2.5 years of investigation by the FBI and a letter to the grand jury he didn't commit any crimes? And then I get indicted by two completely dishonest district attorneys for being a lawyer.
Yeah.
I mean, I represented him.
Yeah.
I argued the things that were in the reports that were given to me that I had every reason to believe were true. And even I would put out the ones that contradicted each other. So people had several bases for it. I didn't know which we would offer in evidence. We were getting ready for trial. Mislead anyone. This whole thing about the alternate electors is ridiculous. That's what they were, alternate electors, just like John Kennedy and Richard Nixon did. Where's the crime? Where's the fraud? Nobody hid a fact. This is the most hideous misuse of our criminal justice system in American history to affect the political process. It's a massive use of it. I mean, they've got the 4 prosecutions against Trump. That's enough. But they're prosecuting, I don't know, maybe 100 of Trump's people, Ted? 70, 80?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Let's play the clip. This is from the debate.
Race. We're talking about the issue.
Laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're
Nobody.
talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
And I
you've
have
just
to respond to that.
Please,
Because look,
very
there
quickly.
are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And that's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This
was
is
told.
where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Yeah.
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President,
again with Russia.
We're going to continue.
Well, you could put a little mark on, like a stamp, on Biden's side, liar, on Trump's side, truth. You could do the same thing with Russian collusion, on Biden's side, liar, on Trump's side, truth. You could do the same thing with bribing the president of Ukraine. You could put on Biden's side, he did it. You could put on the other side, on Trump's side, he didn't do it. I mean, I can go on and on, huh? We're talking about who's going to ruin democracy. One guy prosecuted his opponent in criminal court for the first time in American history. The other guy didn't. He had every right to with Hillary Clinton. So who has more of a danger of interfering with democracy? I mean, how many times do we have to prove to the American people that these people are lying, scoundrel, skunks, and weasels? It's the same people. And we're the same people. Why do we have to go through a trial in Georgia? You really believe that Fannie is capable of telling the truth? Or you really believe that bringing up the allegations of voter fraud in Arizona is a crime? That's a crime for a lawyer to do that? I mean, they're all Democrats who bring it. And they all bring it on the eve of the election. They could have brought it 3 years ago. How obvious does it have to be so they get thrown out of office unanimously? So that this party gets destroyed and they start a new one that's loyal to America. I don't know. But we better we better really focus, because they're going after an awful lot of people with this criminalizing of the justice system now. They're going after executives to try and use the antitrust law that way. I mean, it's become like the restraints have been put off. The restraints have been put off, and they're now looking at it from other points of view. They've got some really slimy prosecutors in the Justice Department. Really, really slimy, because in the game of prosecuting, you're either straight down the middle, and the minute you vary, it starts to go wrong everywhere. That's what Trump means by they're coming after me, but they're really coming after you. Now, I know that because they came after me, and they came after Flynn, and they came after Navarro, and they came after Bannon. But they're coming after people like Mike Roman, who you never heard of before. They just indicted him again in Wisconsin for no reason. Wisconsin is so fraudulent, it would make your head spin. They were going into nursing homes and getting people who didn't know who the hell they were to vote. Their children have come in and complained about it. You don't have a right to argue that and bring it to a court? You're going to go to jail for that? That's communism. That's Nazism. That's not America. Come on, Wisconsin, wake up. Boy, did you get misused. And yeah, you should straighten out Milwaukee. Instead of getting all upset about what Trump said, how about reducing the crime so that black people don't get killed disproportionately in Milwaukee? Huh? That's what I did. I didn't get insulted when people said New York stunk. I changed it. Went from being the crime capital of America to the safest large city in America in about 6 or 7 years, because I wasn't playing political games with it like these Democrats do, largely because they're crooked and want to make money. So we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back. Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. Welcome back. And this is Rudy Giuliani, the Rudy Giuliani Show, with the Mayor's Final Thoughts, sponsored by Tunnel to Towers. T2T.org. That's the place you go where you want to take care of our uniformed members who have been severely injured or lost their lives in the line of duty. $11 a month will make sure that we're able to build the smart homes for them and take care of the mortgages like the Silla family does for them every time we lose one of these heroes. Or fight homelessness among veterans, which is a thing that is just unacceptable. Well, this is Flag Day. And of course, it was made a holiday to honor our flag. And the reason for that is there are very few things that pull a nation like ours together We're not the same nationality, ethnic background. We're not the same religion as we know. We're not the same race. We're a combination of many different things, united around, as Thomas Jefferson said, but also Abraham Lincoln, around a set of principles that we all agree on. And that's why this whole idea of completely open borders, which would destroy any country, is particularly destructive to the United States. Because we need people coming here who are coming here for the right reasons. First of all, we got to begin with the fact that nobody has a right to come here. You didn't have a right to be born here. It just happened. But nobody has a right to come here. Otherwise, the whole world could invade. And we have a right to protect our culture and civilization by taking people in who will understand it and promote it. Abraham Lincoln was once asked at some kind of an immigration ceremony by a new immigrant, how can I ever be as good an American, as he pointed to someone whose family came over on the Mayflower. And Lincoln said, well, that isn't how you're a good American, how long you've been here. What makes you a good American is how much do you believe in the core principles that bind us together, because nothing else binds us together but principles. Now, you know what they are. They are the God-given rights and the Bill of Rights. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech. Fairness in the criminal justice system called due process. Protection for our property. Those are the things that make us our right to defend ourselves. These are the things that make us Americans, that we believe in these rights, that these rights were given to us by God, and these rights are beyond the purview of government. Government can legislate, but these rights limit government. And also a basic agreement that the best government is the least government. Because government can be, when it gets too big, almost always dictatorial. You can see that during the pandemic with the socialist governors, socialists in particular, have a dictatorial tendency, which is why they always end up going up in flames. Well, the flag is one of the things that symbolizes that. From the earliest days, human beings have used symbols. That's why armies carry banners. That's why clubs and groups have insignia. We identify, and those identifications carry values if it's an important moral group of people. Our flag has led more than a few people to fight for our independence, or to defend that independence against Great Britain. It led hundreds of thousands of white men to free black men and die as part of doing that, and to keep our union together. It led us all the way to Europe twice to liberate them. And as Colin Powell said, asked for nothing more than a place to bury our dead. It led us during the Cold War to, without firing a shot, liberate millions of people. Today, it's still respected. When I see the flag, I stop. When I hear the national anthem and the flag, I get goosebumps. Before a baseball game or at a funeral for a police officer or a firefighter or a soldier. Or just when a television station is coming off. When I see the flag, I see one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I don't know if objectively the flag is beautiful. Everybody has a different sense of beauty. To me, it's the most beautiful flag there ever was. I can see how men afraid, frightened, worried about going up that hill, but knowing they have to in order to win the battle, because it's only a piece of securing freedom. They look at that flag and they say, I've got the courage to do it. I've got the courage to do it because that flag represents the people, those few little people who put their lives at risk to give us freedom, and the many, many people who put their lives at risk to free other Americans. And if they have that courage, I have that courage. That flag helped me on September 11 at a very specific moment. It was after I saw the buildings come down. It was after myself and my colleagues were trapped in a building ourselves and thought to be dead and lost. It was after I was informed that I lost very close friends and a good deal of my fire department and some of my police department, and in some cases, critical people who were experts on what we were about to have to do, the search and rescue mission we had to perform. I didn't know if our city be attacked again and how often and how ready we were for it. I was thinking, am I up to it? Can I handle it? Nobody's ever handled this. What am I going to go to for an analogy? And I started thinking, well, let me think about Churchill. Let me think about the Israeli people. I had just been to Israel a couple of years before to ride the bus right after it was bombed as a show of strength with Mayor Olmert of Jerusalem. And I started thinking about how brave those people were and how they took it every day. If they can do it, I can do it. We can do it. And then all of a sudden, I don't remember exactly when, I see, it might be on a television that was off on the side that I passed. I saw a picture at first, then a lot. Then I gave him a medal of the firefighters who were putting up the flag at ground zero. And unlike most people seeing that, I knew the risk they were taking to do it. They were standing on top of fires that were 2,000 to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. They had no idea if that would cave in. If it caved in, they would have been dead. But they put up that flag and it looked just like their forebears with Iwo Jima. And I just said to myself, oh yes, they have it. They are the sons and the daughters of those very same people who liberated Europe and Asia, who liberated America. They've got the same courage, the same determination. They rise up with the same anger when someone's going to push them with their fellow countrymen around. And it was seeing that flag that did it. So you don't touch that flag. Yesterday or the day before, some Palestinian terrorist lover burned an American flag right here in the largest Jewish city in the nation in order to spew hate against Jewish people. I'm tired of that. Isn't a couple of thousand years of that enough? Aren't we intelligent enough, moral enough to rise above that? It could be our oldest, or certainly our oldest, sustaining, vicious, horrible prejudice. Of course, racism and slavery are terrible, but this predates it by 1,000 years. So this guy here is the picture right here. This guy's burning the American flag in honor of Hamas. He's got a kippah on. That's that stupid rag around his head. I don't know, but I saw Arafat with that rag around his head, and he had come in without buying a ticket to the concert at the UN. I threw him out. I threw him out because I'm offended by people who wear things around their head to listen to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. I figure they're jackasses. No, that was the joke I wanted to tell. And I was told you shouldn't tell jokes about it. I threw him out because he was a damn murderer. That's why I threw him out. Because he murdered 27 American people and Clinton was kissing his ass. That's why I did it. I did it to send a message. And I was right and Clinton was wrong. Yeah, 3 years later, Clinton gave him everything he wanted and he said, go to hell, I'm going to continue the war. It's a little like Ukraine. War without end. The end of war, I don't get any money. Look at my wife now. She's a multi-billionaire in the south of France, and the people in Palestine are starving. We've given Palestine, and we've given the poor communities in America enough money so they can all be Monica. And the people running it took the money. And we just repeat it. We argue over the wrong things. People are arguing over the 60 billion for Ukraine. They're arguing over whether we should continue the war, not continue the war. What about finding out if this crooked country is using the money correctly? It never has before. That would be actually good news. Now about having a plan. We learned that? Wasn't that one of the lessons after Vietnam? One of the lessons after Vietnam was we were not going to enter a war without end, amen, anymore. And Bibi is offering us one like that, and Biden is double crossing him. I don't know who Biden is working for, but it isn't us. That's for sure. So this guy burned the American flag in Manhattan on Wednesday in front of the Jewish consulate, the Israeli consulate. He burned an American flag and an Israeli flag. Now, he was arrested for reckless endangerment and menacing and disorderly conduct and failure to use a sidewalk. Good for you. Look at that. Look at the nose. Look at the phony nose he's put on. The miserable. So if you haven't had enough of this, you're just not a civilized person. You don't belong in Western civilization if you haven't had enough of this anti-Semitism. You don't belong with us. You really don't. You've failed the Lincoln test of agreeing to the basic principles that make you an American. I think once Trump comes into office, this can be over real quick because it starts at the top. And this guy sounds like he might be. He's sure racist, but with the way he's double-crossing them and putting pressure on Bibi, and it seems to me he wants Hamas to survive. Also, how could you care about the Jewish people and give hundreds of billions to Iran, who wants to destroy them? Both his predecessor, who did it in cash, and him, who did it with lifting sanctions, have made Iran wealthy. They're probably the biggest financiers of the number one sponsor of terrorism in the world, whose number one target is to eliminate the Jewish people. So here we are on Flag Day. Let's honor our flag. I don't see anything wrong with making an exception to the First Amendment and saying people cannot burn the flag. I don't see that, and I feel like I've been very much abused by a violation of the First Amendment, very much. I believe they've taken away all my First Amendment rights. I think the things I'm being prosecuted for, I have a First Amendment right to say. I think the things they're trying to take away my living for, I have a right to say. Don't only have your right to say it, as a lawyer, I have an obligation to say it. I think it's so clear and so obvious, these phonies. But I don't see the value in burning a flag. I mean, you can just say America stinks. You don't have to burn our flag. And I don't see, when you say, well, the flag is just an object. There are objects and there are objects. That's what art's all about, isn't it? Art brings out in people things that they don't even understand. So do patriotic symbols. Tonight we're going to talk about the young man, and hopefully we can get somebody on to talk about it, who's been thrown out of his school because he was talking about patriotism. Something seriously wrong with us. Nothing wrong with talking about patriotism. I know Soros hates it, but good people don't. So pray for the people of Israel, and pray for the people of Ukraine, and pray for the people of the United States. Pray for the misguided people too. Pray for them. God has a way of reaching people that we have no idea how to do. Pray for their redemption. It happens sometimes. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens sometimes. It's God showing us you can come back. Not impossible. We'll talk to you later, 8 o'clock tonight. God bless America.